location data for sale, and Copilot's unnecessary AI features. This is MacVoices. The MacVoices Dispatch is our weekly newsletter about all things MacVoices. From the week's shows to Chuck's other appearances to the week's best MacVoices magazine articles, the Dispatch keeps you up to date. Sign up now at macvoices.com/newsletter. Okay, this one, here we go. This treads dangerously close to politics, but the FBI started buying Americans' location data again, Kash Patel confirms. This is on Ars Technica. It is well worth the read. I think the most disturbing thing about this is that there is that much information out there that can be purchased that the government would be interested in.
I don't think that's much of a surprise, really. I think pretty much anything you want to know about nearly anyone is available at the right price. If you know the right people.
Do you know the right people, Guy?
I do not. I do not.
Okay.
I don't travel in those circles. Frankly, I have trouble just figuring myself out, much less anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say? The FBI started doing this, so you have to wonder what the agenda is and why. And it's not that long ago that...
What surprises me is that they admitted that they're doing it.
So is that just hubris or is that stupidity? I don't recall whether he was under oath or not.
Yeah, both.
Both.
Yeah. Maybe so.
Like, yeah, we buying it. We don't care. No.
Seriously, I agree with Guy in that let's try to take the politics out of this. If you want to know something, you can go to any service and find out. You can go to Equifax and get information. You can go to any of the other accrediting services. I mean, it's out there. I don't think that this article is saying that the buying the location data. I don't think they're saying that they're going underground, getting it illegal. I think they're getting it through legal means. So I don't think this should be that big a surprise. Now, maybe ethically you don't like it, and that's a different issue. But I don't think that. Anyway, I've said my piece.
The whole thing is, at least we know that they're doing it as compared to we think they're doing it, but we don't know for sure. It doesn't make it right, and it doesn't make it palatable, but we know. We know that they're doing it.
Marty?
Yeah, the argument is that this information is publicly available. And I think that's the defense they're using to be able to do it. And in the article that Tom Cotton, I think, is saying, we use it to find, child molesters and savage cartel leaders. And, but it's information that is out there that is purchasable. However, and it's not much different than the Supreme Court precedent that once you throw your trash out, it's public, it's in the public domain, and people can look through it and find out information about you because because you've thrown it away, you don't care about it. I don't know if I consciously throw away my locations. And that's different than throwing away the trash.
Locations as in not, well, I mean, if you throw away a used envelope, you're throwing away your location now. And if you go to Mexico and take an envelope with you and throw it in the trash, then, you've maybe identified yourself as visiting Mexico. I don't know if it makes any difference or not, but.
Yeah, but it's the location information that they're able to swoop up from services that are selling it to them. So every time we check, do you want this service to know my location? You're in a sense throwing it away, which means anybody can have it. And in this case, it's the FBI.
Yeah. Eric.
So on the surface of it, it doesn't seem like it maybe is a huge problem, but just because you're paying money to a service or a research institute to get access to data doesn't mean that that data didn't come from a place that they shouldn't have had access to. As an example, all of the young people going in and doing research at the IRS, trying to figure out what programs you might get rid of or not get rid of, or what funding went where, that then loaded it all onto a drive and walked out the door with everybody's IRS data. No one really knows where that went. If that data then goes and gets combined with a marketing research database that then turns around and sells back to the FBI, who maybe should be doing searching to figure out where that data went, but maybe doesn't check because it's convenient to be able to have access to that data out, where it's been kind of cleaned up. It looks legitimate. That then becomes a problem. So it's sort of, how does it look, and that sense of propriety.
Jeff?
All right. The legal arguments about whether or not the FBI should be able to do this, I find to be very interesting, and it will also be very interesting to see how this all plays out, because eventually it's going to end up as a Supreme Court decision. There will be a case, and it's just going to happen. We already have part of a foundation for no, the FBI cannot do something like this, and that comes from the Supreme Court ruling about obtaining data from wireless carriers, and so the ruling there says, yeah, if the government wants location data, other sensitive information about someone's cell phone activity, you need a warrant. And so we've got that foundation. The part that I think is going to come into play as far as an argument against allowing the FBI and other federal agencies to do this goes right back to the well, it's like going through your trash. Well, sure. I believe the argument to go along with, well, sure, is it's just like going through your trash, assuming the government goes into your house without your permission and then goes through the trash can under your desk. That's how they're going through your trash. Because this is not publicly available information. This is information that's been collected by a business that is then selling that to another entity, and then that entity is selling it on to you, the entity being a data broker. So this was never publicly available information. It's something that is, for lack of a better term right now, it's behind a paywall. So in that sense, no, this is not public information. This is not like going through your trash. This is like having your ISP follow you around everywhere you go with a notepad and write down, Chuck went to the grocery store and bought avocados and beer and toothpaste. And I don't judge your shopping habits. And then just logged like that all day long. So they've got this notebook of everything you did. That's not public. But then they sell it to Marty, and I go to Marty and I'm like, I want to know every place Chuck goes and the food he buys. And Marty says, well, have I got a deal for you? And sells me part of the notebook. That information public, even though you went to a public grocery store and bought things in a public grocery store.
Right. Well, again, the way things cross up in my head, Jeff, I'm thinking anytime you step outside of your door, you are allegedly in public and therefore can be photographed.
Sure.
You have no presumption of privacy.
Sure. But we're not talking about public information here. This would be more like someone coming up to the window on your house with a camera and taking the pictures of you before you leave your house.
Okay. All right.
And now, granted, I'm crafting a legal argument here, but even though I'm not a lawyer, I have played one on stage. So I'm sure I'm fully qualified to present that argument.
I see that.
Yeah. No, I mean, we're down to just trying to decide where the lines need to be drawn.
Yep.
And until they get drawn definitively, you have stories like this that are interesting, maybe concerning, depending on how you feel about it, but you definitely need to be aware of.
Can I make one more point?
Please, Guy.
There is nothing in this story that says where they're getting the information from. If they were, made to narrow it down, they may say things like Facebook or LinkedIn, or things like that. But there are data brokers out there on the dark web that just know a crap ton about us. And the FBI may or may not have the ability to reach out to these folks and say, okay, well, tell us what Guy was doing when he went to talk to a bunch of kids at a school. And quite frankly, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they did. But we don't know where they're getting the information from other than sources. We don't know if it's public sources. We don't know if it's private sources. We have no idea because
all we know is commercially available sources,
which means nothing.
Yeah, except that they're paying for it.
Yeah.
Again, things to be aware of, things to watch, articles to read that are hopefully you're a little better informed.
You can say you don't like it, but it doesn't really matter. And they could say that they don't do it, and it doesn't really matter because if they want to do it, they'll do it.
It's a very cynical view, and I agree with it 100%, Guy. One more for the evening before we get out of here. And you just knew that I had to do this. But Microsoft is removing quote-unquote unnecessary Copilot features from Windows.
Oh, and there's no product
great
anymore?
Audience for this one, yeah.
I think I posted out last week. We wanted to talk about it.
If you take a look at this, it is a riot because you have to wonder just how much pushback they've gotten on some of these features that nobody wanted.
Big time.
And we talked weeks ago about how they were just shoving AI and Copilot in everywhere they could, just like they do the phrase Windows this, Windows that. Now it's been Copilot this, Copilot that, and they're getting a lot of pushback. And so it's one of those humorous things that I think, I don't know who's running Microsoft, and who's making these decisions, but wow, it's just crazy.
Just there's so many different designs that Windows that Microsoft changed on Windows 11. It's just ludicrous what they've done with some of the things, and some were legit complaints, others were okay, but they're pretty valid, for the most part.
Yeah. Well, and I've joked in a vicious way about my Copilot experiences, and I stand by every one of them. Because it's
I gotta live with it though.
See, but Dave, that's the thing. That's the attitude that terrifies me. Well, you got to live with it. That's unacceptable. You shouldn't have to just live with it.
Though. There's no fighting it. They make decisions. You can give suggestions, but it all boils down to security. How does an enterprise secure a ChatGPT, a Claude?
I'm not debating this. Marty?
Yeah, I have been put on the committee at my college to look at AI and AI use in the college, and we have been informed that the only approved AI system is Copilot.
Oh, really?
And there were people. We had faculty, we had staff, we had administrators on this committee, and even the staff, and that's not to negate their tech knowledge, but even the staff were saying, Microsoft? Gemini was the other one they said that we could
Gemini,
use.
yeah.
And I was like, and they were like, whoa. So we can't use this, but we can use a company that sells our data. And they're all concerned about FERPA and all concerned about privacy of student information. Yet the approved AI system is one that we know uses the information or leaks the information.
Now, you guys are Google Workspace users, right?
Well, yeah, I think I would say yes, but no, I mean, we're Outlook, we're a Microsoft shop primarily.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah,
that makes sense then, unfortunately.
Yep. Yeah, well, sometimes it's the devil you know, but in this case, the devil you know is pretty much a devil.
Yeah.
And Marty, you just said it. The two approved are, one that wants to sell you something, which probably is less insidious than one that just leaks your information all over the world. Mm. So, because Microsoft is not known as a bastion of privacy.
What?
To say the least.
Marty, are they going to give the licenses out to every student and every staff, faculty?
No, they aren't. This is faculty and staff. Students don't have that, which is why the students approach it from doing everything on Google. So,
right. Which they're not going to stop. Well, because it's their computer. So,
right.
Mm-hmm. Where in the corporate world, it's not. They're going to control what they're going to control. So that in a college situation, yeah, they can decide what the staff's going to use, but.
So, just something to to be aware of as we go through our technology-filled lives. Guys, thank you very much. This has been a lot of fun. I think great show tonight, and I want to thank the chat room. They've been throwing in comments left and right and digging around, and we're glad you're here. So please keep coming back. Let's go around the room, find out where folks can find you when you're not here, and where else they might find you next Tuesday night while we're dark. So I'm going to flip it around. Start with Webb Bixby at the bottom.
Oh, I got my notes right here.
Good. Well, I wanted to comment that the brown panels in your quilt sort of look like the Hermes color MagSafe chargers. So
it's a coincidence only.
Okay.
Sure.
I believe in conspiracy theories. Where can folks find you, Webb? Thanks so much for being here.
Well, on, like I said, almost all the social media networks, I have the same handle, which is Webb Bixby, WEBBIXBY. But I'm going to stick with Blue Sky because I like the name.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Webb. Appreciate it. Eric Bolden, thank you for being here and bringing your Bluebird. Where can folks find you?
Well, probably outside waiting for the next bird to volunteer itself for pictures. However, I can also be found on Mastodon at eabolden at masd.to. Let's see. Change. There's so much change in the world. Monday nights on Vision Profiles. Tuesdays, of course, here on MacVoices Live. Thursdays on In Touch with iOS, kind of going through all of the OSs throughout the week. And we have added a Neo Notebook podcast on Sunday nights, talking about the new Neo.
Yeah, you had the inaugural show Sunday. I jumped in for a while. So nicely done. Nicely done. Jeff Gamet, thank you so much for being here as always and sharing your lawyerly advice. Where can folks find you?
Well, Chuck, when I'm not busy writing briefs for the next privacy and government overreach case, you can find me hanging out watching to see where Eric's next bird will come from. No, wait, social media. Jay Gamet on the social medias, most active on Mastodon and PixelFed and Web's favorite, Blue Sky. And then for shows here with you for MacVoices Live, then on Thursdays with Dave for his show In Touch with iOS, then on the British Tech Network, The Big Show and The Mac Show, Brian Chaffin and I do The Context Machine, and Patrice Brindamore and I do Retro Rewatch.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Jeff. Brian Flanigan-Arthurs, the man, you all don't know it in the public chat, but in our private chat, Brian just confirmed and proved that he is a partial owner of the Green Bay Packers. So nicely done, Brian. Congratulations. Where can folks find you?
Well, let's see. Besides ownership calls, you can find me here most Tuesday evenings. Also, if you want to catch up with me, see what's going on project-wise, I invite you to check out brian8944.com. As far as next week, I was just looking at the forecast. We've been having temperatures in the 100, 102, 103 range here for about the last week, and it's too hot, too quick. But I was looking next Tuesday, it's going to be in the mid-70s. So you might find me outside for a walk. So
very nice. So folks just go to Arizona, find Brian. You'll find him wandering around the state.
Yep.
And telling everybody he's partial owner of the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
I'll have a big sign. Yeah.
Yeah. Or just take your certificate around and show it.
Yeah.
Jim Ray, thank you so much for being here. I'm glad that you have not lost as much money on AI as some others. Where can folks find you?
Well, last week I gave out a plethora of ways to contact me. And since then, I've been overwhelmed by an avalanche of, actually, no one has contacted me at all. So I think I'm going to suggest, if you want to get in touch with me, just wait till June 11th, go to the visitor center at Apple Park, just pictured here, and go up on the roof, and I'll be there.
Very nice. We'll be anxious to hear how that goes, both from the context standpoint and the WWDC standpoint.
I think, I'm going to get the same amount of context as I did last week.
Marty Gensius, congratulations on the Neo Notebook podcast. I love the idea. You just keep adding them to your arsenal of podcasts.
Yeah, and after editing about the fourth podcast in 2 days, I started to regret my decision. But because I do have a real full-time job. You can catch me at Gensius, Jencius on Blue Sky or on Mastodon. Check out the projects that I'm involved in at the podtalk.net website, most notably the Neo Netbook, which is you can catch us on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. on youtube.com/@the-neo-notebook. And then if you haven't had enough of us, check us out on Monday night at 9 p.m. with Eric and Dave. And we do vision profiles, kind of reviewing the news with that device. And then all sorts of other things here with Chuck on Tuesday, Dave on Thursday, the Mac Show on Friday, and just check it out at the podtalk.net.
Great. Thank you, Marty. Guy Serle, thank you for being here. We still want to hear about Albuquerque in After Dark, but until then, where can folks find you?
Not in Albuquerque. You can find me on Tuesday nights, of course, here at MacVoices, Thursdays with In Touch with iOS with Dave. usually. And I do a little show called The G-Men Show with Gaz over there in the UK. If you'd like to contact us, it's gmenshow@icloud.com. You can also find me over on the Twatex and Skies of Blue as either Mac Parrot or Vert Shark. And we have a Google Voice number, which is 703-828-4677 if you have to call it outside the United States. Dial 1, then the number, and you may incur charges if you dial it directly. But I don't get any of that. So, plan accordingly.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you for your comments on your financial situation.
Sure.
Last but absolutely not least, David Ginsburg. David, thank you for being here. Where can folks find you?
Well, like Marty said, I think I'm almost crazy doing 5 podcasts a week, so it's a full-time job, so I probably could add that to my list. But anyway, no, I love doing it. You can find me at intouchwithios.com. You also find me on my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/intouchwithios. Vision Profiles on Monday nights, Eric and Marty. Tuesday nights here on MacVoices Live. We record In Touch with iOS Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Fridays on the Mac Show with the British Tech Network, and the Neo Notebook for MacBook Neo fans on Sunday nights. And Blue Sky Mastodon at Dave G65.
Great. Thanks so much, David.
Thank you.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices Live, Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. We'd love to have you join us. And also for those folks who were late getting here in the chat room or late tuning in, all the show notes for tonight's episode will be online for a little while at macvoices.com/show notes. And then that page will go blank until the next week when it will be refreshed with a new batch of notes for that week's show. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.